Hi guys! Today I want to get into a topic you've probably all seen discussed around the community when talking about Flesh and Blood, the cost of collecting and playing the game. To see how the costs stack up, I'm going to compare the at time of writing latest draft set for Magic the Gathering and Flesh and Blood. This will be Adventures in the Forgotten Realms for Magic and Monarch for Flesh and Blood. I've also put Welcome to Rathe in the comparison, as the first two Flesh and Blood sets have a different rarity distribution due to the presence of super rares which were discontinued going forward. Now, some quick technical caveats before we get into it. I am using approximate pull chances, which are slightly inaccurate due to the foil card slot present in both games, which can be a card of any rarity. The math was breaking my brain when I was trying to work it out, and as it's present in both games, I don't think it'll be too much of a confounding factor. Secondly, these odds are not based on true randomness, as my comparison assumes you will not draw a repeat card once for the rarity you are currently looking at. Also, cards in booster packs are not truly random. There is a large hidden pattern due to the way they are packaged in factories, and there is a set number of combinations they can come in, which is not n to the exclamation mark. The pattern is, however, large enough that the inaccuracy this introduces should be negligible. Lastly, when I say playset in my comparison, a playset being the maximum number of cards a person would functionally need, I mean 4 copies of card for Magic the Gathering and 3 copies for Flesh and Blood, except for the Fabled and Legendary cards, which are one-ofs only. I do not count alternative art cards, card treatments, and alternative frames as separate entries, as we are looking to collect the complete functional set only, so only mechanically unique cards matter. So let's get into it. Magic the Gathering has 4 rarities: common, uncommon, rare, and mythic. There are typically 10 common cards and 3 uncommon cards in every draft pack. In 7 out of every 8 packs, there will be a rare slot, and in the 8th or so instance, it will be a mythic rarity card. There is also one more slot in the draft pack that can be a land card or replaced in 1 out of every 3 packs with a foil version of every card, which we are not taking into account. As we can see on the table, there are 280 mechanically unique cards in the draft booster pool. The middle column shows the possibility of drawing any possible card with that rarity, while the last column shows the amount of packs you'd need to open to be nearly sure that you would get the specific card you'd wanted. Due to how probability in gambling works, this is never a guarantee though. Looking at this, it would take you approximately 126 packs of draft boosters to pull a specific mythic card that you were looking for, which is why it's always advised to buy singles if you are looking for a specific card. As the lowest possibility, this is also the floor for collecting the entire set. So assuming you magically did not get any repeats in your mythic cards, you would need to buy a minimum of 126 packs to collect every single card in the set at one off. On to Flesh and Blood now. There are 6 rarities: common, rare, super rare, majestic, legendary, and fabled. Super rare was eliminated after the second draft set and essentially combined with the majestic rarity. You are guaranteed at least 1 rare per pack, with a single wildcard slot that can be any card of rarity rare and above. There is also the foil card slot, which can be a card of any rarity. The one piece of information I don't have here is whether legendary and fable cards can only appear in the foil treatment slot, or if they can appear in the rare wildcard slot and the foil slot, as their pull rate is so low that was information not currently available to me. There are 247 mechanically unique cards in the Welcome to Rathe, and 322 in Monarch, a set size that fluctuates at about the same size as the Magic the Gathering sets. Now, as we can see, for common, rare, and majestic, they map pretty well onto the Magic the Gathering rarities, with the rare slot fluctuating between uncommon and rare pull rates, depending on the set. The chance per pack takes a steep nosedive for the last 2 rarities, however, with fabled cards only being drawn in one out of a whopping 960 packs. That's 40 booster boxes. As the floor for collecting, this sets a massive increase over the Magic the Gathering equivalent. Even removing Fabled with multiple cards in the legendary slot, this leads to over 570 boosters being needed to be opened with no repeats to get the entire set. Moving on to price comparison. To acquire 4 of every card in Adventures to the Forgotten Realms, you'd need to open approximately 500 booster packs, which works out at about £1,120 if you were to buy all of these at the best available prices I could find. Alternatively, buying 4 complete sets from Card Market would cost about £850. This could probably be lowered even more if you bought some of the more expensive singles and were smart about your dealings with some of the other stuff. But we'll say £850 to have a playset of every functional card in the set. For both Flesh and Blood sets, the Fabled card locks the amount of packs you need, which means in the process of getting a single Fabled card, you will acquire a functional playset of every other card, even if you're only looking to collect one of. This would take approximately 960 boosters, and this would cost about £2,400. As Flesh and Blood is still relatively new, complete playsets were not available when I went to look. Checking from the available vendors, several of the Majestic rarity cards are hitting about the £20 mark, and the Legendary and Fable cards can easily go into the several £100s. Due to this and the smaller secondary market at the moment, it would actually be cheaper to buy the booster packs if you were going for a complete set. As the secondary market grows and the Flesh and Blood eventually gets added to Card Market, I would expect this to change over time. Please note that I did not take into account the large volume of extra cards you'd get by opening 960 booster packs, and that you would likely be able to sell a portion of these to make back some of the costs. I personally wouldn't really want to deal with all the messing about of listing and shipping all those singles, however. So, in conclusion, as we can see from the comparison, if one removed the Fabled and Legendary cards from the equation, collecting would be pretty much identical between the two games in terms of getting one of the sets. I personally don't think that having a functionally unique Fabled card is a good idea. The risk of accidentally printing a must-have card in that Fabled slot, which would lead to competitive decks costing several thousand, and collectors being upset that they couldn't complete their own sets because of this, would in turn lead to both groups of players potentially losing interest. Even the existence of them has the potential to put off newer players, who see the cost and then get scared away. As for legendary cards, I can see a spot for this rarity, with the stipulations of them always being one-of cards, and the pool of legendaries in a set never exceeding 1 or 2. This way there's still a jackpot card to pull, while being common enough that the prices shouldn't top more than 100 or so. A potentially healthier alternative would be to have the Fabled and Legendary slots be a special card treatment, or certain existing cards. With advances in printing technologies, there are many amazing styles that could be done. You could even have other creative alternatives, such as having the Fabled slot be replaced with a code card that could be redeemed for, say, a metal set of the cards. The bottom line is, I believe that for the long-term health of the game, these two rarities as they stand pose a potential problem to the longevity and expansion of the game, and that a close eye should be kept on them. As can be seen from the comparison, the cost of collecting is overall higher, but the cost of getting a deck is probably around the same, and in most draft experiences, this won't really change how you're playing. It's more a case of player perceptions, and for those high-end collectors or competitive players. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more.